Well, on any given day, the share price and the fortunes for marijuana companies like Tilray can depend on the latest news when it comes to legalization in the U.S. But there are other markets outside of the U.S., most recently, hope and optimism that Germany will move towards legalization. Certainly that's been carrying Tilray shares recently, but there was a setback. There was supposed to be a final vote on legalization that was set to take place, but now is being delayed until next year. Let's bring in Irwin Simon, Chair and CEO of Tilray Brands. Irwin, thank you so much for being with me. Now, I know, it's not a straight line to legalization. When you see these kind of setbacks in terms of when the vote was supposed to take place in Germany, does it change the direction that the country is ultimately headed?
Good morning, Amber. Nice to be on your show. And absolutely not. And just coming back from Berlin and spending time with members of parliament, they have a plan. And again, there's three things that will happen: decriminalization, number one, and descheduling, which will allow all, medical professionals to write prescriptions. And then tenders. Right now, you need a tender to sell product in Germany. And we have a facility in Germany. With having a permit there, you'll be able to sell products within Germany. So, Tilray is well set for the German market, which is the biggest market in the European market. So we're really excited about it. And it's not a matter, in my opinion, it's not a matter, will it happen? It's when it will happen. And I think timing will be sooner than later. And again, it's the holidays. But I will tell you this here, I spent some good time with members of parliament when I was in Germany, 10 days ago.
So talk to me about the German opportunity relative to, your geographic exposure right now, obviously in Canada, tentatively waiting for things to get going in the United States, and you're there in different ways. Looking out a couple of years, how do you see that shaping up? Is it a third of revenue? Is it half the business?
So, listen, Tilray is well positioned today, if you come back and think about it. The Canadian market, turned 5 in cannabis. We're seeing some good growth in cannabis. We're looking, over the next between 23 and 28, we're looking for double-digit growth in the Canadian market. And, I like what I see in Canada. Listen, I don't like the price compression that's happened. I don't like the excise tax we're still paying. But more and more consumers today in the Canadian market are educated about cannabis, the regulatory, the good products that we have. And maybe we had too many stores and a lot of LPs. But, it's really catching on in Canada. I see big opportunities in regards to edibles and drinks and the opportunity there. So we are well positioned in the Canadian market. And I got to tell you, when I'm out there, I'm talking about why a lot of these countries should be looking at the Canadian market and learn about their mistakes and learn about their successes. In regards to Germany, listen, it's the biggest country within the European nation. And with that, once Germany opens up and, the changes happen there, you're going to see a lot of that happening across the rest of Europe. And I think that's got us well positioned, as we have a facility in Germany and a facility, in Portugal. So I like what I see in the European market. In regards to today, we sell medical cannabis in 21 countries, including New Zealand and Australia. So we're well positioned there. The U.S., listen, there's a lot that's going to happen in the U.S. in the next 10 months with the election. And I could make prediction of what I think Biden could do. But if I do that, then, I could be right or I could be 100% wrong. But I think something's got to change in the U.S. market. Today, there is 37 states where it's legal. 27 states where it's legal from a recreational and 10 states from a medical. 67% of the population today, cannabis is legal one way or another. So, Americans want legalization, whether it's just medical safe banks. Something will happen, and I think Biden will do something to bring in the younger vote when it gets close to election time next year. Amber, we're well positioned in the beverage business. It's only a month today, from a closing on our ABI deal. I like the brands we bought. I think consumers are, focused on beer today. They're trading down somewhat because of prices that have gone up in the spirit category. So I like what we are. As I've said before, I don't like where our stock price is. I don't like, some of the vulnerability in that stock. But I like where we are in regards to our position and our diversification as a company within Tilray.
And I guess, we can get at the stock price. You kind of took me around the world there in all the geographic regions. I want to unpack what you said when you say you're starting to like what you see in Canada, because the common complaint is that there's just, especially if you're a shareholder in any of these marijuana companies, turns out there's just too many of you. There's no pricing power. Is that starting to change? Do you expect more consolidation to help firm up against that kind of complaint?
I think three things are going to happen in the Canadian market. Consumers are going to come and recognize brands and not just buy pre-rolls, flowers, edibles and stuff like that. They're going to look for brands. So that will be able to get you some pricing. Number two, there is going to be some more consolidation, or some of the LPs are going to go out of business. And more consumers today, and you're seeing a cannibalization within, the spirits and the beer category, in the Canadian market, because more and more consumers today are indulging and enjoying cannabis. And, brands take a long time to build. Businesses and categories take a long time to build. And you got to remember, it's only 5 years. And, you're dealing with an illicit market. You were dealing with multiple LPs. So there was a lot of, ultimate headwinds to get through. And I like what I see here. And the Canadian market at retail will be a $10 billion market, over the next, 5 years. So at $5 billion at retail, that's a nice sized market. And Canada today is the only market in the world where recreational cannabis is legal. And with that, it brings into the Canadian government $600-700 million in tax dollars. So, and I think ultimately the big opportunity is three things. More and more consumers are educated, more and more brands become aware, and the illicit market ultimately goes away. So I like what I see. It's just going to take time.
Canopy was looking, a lot of analysts were worried about it being a going concern. It's taken major steps to cash up. What have you made of those steps? There's also a player like Kronos looking at strategic options. I mean, there's quite a landscape there of players that do have, brands that you could either compete with, or I don't know. Do you think about further consolidation with major players like that?
Listen, we're well positioned today with 18 great brands, between the acquisition of Aphria, with Tilray and Hexo, and with the Trust brand in regards to the beverage and our edibles. So we're well positioned. If something makes sense for us in the Canadian market, we're always open, and, we know how to do acquisitions that are strategic and accretive to our shareholders and make sense. But, right now, what we have to do is really grow our brands and bring brand awareness, and whether it's Good Supply, or other of our brands, that we really have to get consumers educated on our Rift brand, our Broken Coast brand. We have to do that. The big opportunity, again, on the Canadian market is drinks. I think the drink market is huge. And, with that, trying our Trust drinks, trying some of our Rift drinks, trying some of our Good Supply drinks. And I got to tell you, that's, the opportunity to be sold in grocery stores. You're going to see over the next 2 years where beer is sold in Ontario in grocery stores. And I'm hoping that you'll be able to buy cannabis drinks in grocery stores or convenience stores, or be able to buy it on tap. And that will just drive the growth in the category tremendously.
I want to pick up on a point that you said earlier about telling other countries, look at what Canada has done, and make, there are some takeaways from there. And I've read about the European market that there's a little bit more stricter controls, and that competition is a little bit more regulated. Do you expect that to be your experience in Europe, in Germany?
Listen, I think, again, the Canadian market was pretty controlled. I think Health Canada did a tremendous job coming out of the gate. And, what people forget, we talk about cannabis, nobody has grown in 1.5 million square feet of cannabis ever. Health Canada had a lot of regulations in regards to medicines, in regards to alcohol, but this was all new, and this is 5 years old. And, Health Canada come out of the gate. And yes, was mistakes along the way. But I think, again, the German market is absolutely very strict. But Germany just didn't start working on this yesterday. And that's the big thing. And they've been up to Canada and met with Health Canada and really have learned from Health Canada and put their own, restrictions in place. So Absolutely, German will have a lot of restrictions, but we've been in the German market. And the good news is they're working with companies like us, Aurora, and other companies over there to make sure they get it right. I'm also big on the whole thing on medical cannabis, Amber, and I think in regards to what's happening in the world today, PTSD, in regards to anxiety, there's a lot we have to do to come out and really make sure research can stand by it. We can support it, invest dollars in it. And that's where the German market and the doctors want to make sure we do it. I've come back and I've saw lots of research in regards to epilepsy and, reduction of seizures there, cancer patients, how it gets them through their chemo treatments. So it's not just to go out and, enjoy a pre-roll or a flower and, get a good high out of it. But the important thing ultimately is to be able to, enjoy it from a medical standpoint.